Let's do it.
Okay, with Gareth Brierley from the UK, Sneeze is the short film played at the Under 5 Minute Film Festival, and it's about someone having an uncontrolled sneeze. And I think that we all can kind of relate to it, and it's funny. And you shot this on your iPhone, correct?
Yeah, we did it on an iPhone 16, and we deliberately try to make something that we could do quite quickly, quite guerrilla kind of filmmaking, where we can go to locations around London
Yeah.
and surrounding areas and do really kind of short, be there 15 seconds. This is what we're going to do in the middle of like very busy kind of famous icons and get in and get out. And so this idea of sneeze, which is this idea of someone who has a sneezing attack due to some flowers, and every time they sneeze, they get teleported somewhere else, which gets more and more frantic as they go along.
So the thing with your performer, your actress, is that she has to sneeze on film, which I'm assuming that she's she's not really sneezing, she's playing that like that. That's not hard. That's not easy to do, let's put it that way.
She was very good at it. Yeah, she's playing it, but she was really good at just doing it every
Yeah.
time. And of course we just like we tried different variations, but she was really spot on the sneeze every time. There would be no complaints wherever we go. Sometimes people would say bless you, just general members of the public, because they go past. It
Oh,
was quite
that
nice.
tells you that she's acting really well then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So okay,
Um,
so what is your experience making films before this one? Like it seems like you've done a lot of short films previously.
yeah, we've done a couple of short films, and it was, I think before we had a kind of like full crew, cameras, lights, sound, so it's kind of much more of a normal production of making a film. So I think I think as well we just felt, let's try to do something, see what we can do with these phones, and we sort of budgeted for like about four or five of these short films, and he's been the
Okay.
first one. So we're going to keep going on that kind of like formula to see what we can do about how effectively can you tell a story about how kind of like cheaply. I really like this idea, especially where I come from with in London. We've got this amazing kind of city,
Mhm.
and it's quite good to do something where you can go in and go quite quickly without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, Go to these locations and go, and because the setup is like the iPhone but with a little rig,
Yeah.
it just looks like we're blogging more than anything else, and we've got some microphones like are hidden.
Yeah.
It just looks a bit like we're tourists, or we're like, just making this, just taking photographs. So I'm kind of interested in that form, see how much you can push it. We've got something a bit more complicated lined up next time.
So the interesting thing about your film, it's like it almost could be like a tourist video for the city of London, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we did it in 2 days, and we had loads more locations that we were
Yeah.
like, and there's certain things that we booked, and then we couldn't get in at the last second, and we were going to be in the aquarium at one point, and on the London Eye,
Yeah.
and the London Eye broke down that day we were filming. It was like it just cancelled, so we couldn't go on it. And actually, I'm quite glad because some of them are a bit more. There was a great bit when she's in a skate park, and in London, in Waterloo, there's a kind of underneath the big sort of South Bank and the National
Yeah.
Theatre, there's a skate park that's famous for like people just skating. And
Oh, I love that. Like with the skaters, I'm assuming, did you tell them what you're doing or?
yeah, Fiona just went, do you mind if I go in there and just stand there and you can
Yeah.
skate around me? And they went, yeah, yeah, fine. It's like a
Yeah.
normal thing. And then she did it, and then we were off. We
What
had a
was,
lovely bit on there as a sorry, go on.
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I just said it was a really interesting bit. We have a shot when Fiona runs across the bridge and I'm following her. And
Yeah.
it's like it's a sort of famous walkway bridge that's
That's so
busy all the
funny
time.
that was my question. I was going to ask you what bridge was that. That's so funny that, yeah, that we were
Yeah.
jumping on each other
It
and we asked
it
the same question. Yeah.
it's running from Waterloo to Embankment. So it's like quite a famous walkway bridge, and it
Okay.
goes across the river, and it's packed. And the moment we started filming, we were trying to say that we'd do our own thing. The moment Fiona started running, everyone just stopped and backed away. So it actually looks like she's on her own on that bridge. It's absolutely full of people. So but they
Oh,
just stopped and let us do it, and then they carried on. No one complained. So it was quite a it's like the same with where you are, and it's like when people start filming, they just sort of accept stuff that happens very quickly, as long as it's not for a longer period of time.
So tell me about the water sequence because you don't want to like you have your camera, right? So you're on a mount, but you can't get your camera wet. So how did you do those sequences?
We went to a place. It was on the second day called Rye, which is like about an hour's drive from London for the seaside, and we we did a couple of things around there, and then we it was right at the end of the day, and we had all the three of us all there and just jumped in the water. But the problem with the water was quite shallow, so it was quite as far as you go out it was quite shallow. So
Yeah,
we had to get Fiona to go down. I had to go down as well. So I'm just holding my phone and the camera there. So we're doing, and we had loads of footage, and I think in the edit kind of made it a bit more because sometimes there was a brilliant shot that Fiona's last one. She was acting her socks off, and because it was quite shallow, we were doing the shot, and I look when I look back at it, we could see someone standing in the background,
yeah,
just like looking out, but up to their knees, and you went, "Oh, that's ruined that kind of like the dream that it's getting deeper and deeper." But
great.
it was a really interesting, funny shot. It was just fun to do that last shot, and we
Yeah,
had a
it's a
trouble. That was the only time that the light was really bad, so we're waiting for the sun to come through the clouds so we can go now quickly. Yeah,
yeah. No, it's a really great idea, like what you did in the film. I just think it's simple, but it's complicated and it's thematic and it's funny as well. And at the same time, like I said, like you should tell the tourist industry what you did because it's like it could be easily like a fun tourist, like boom, you're clicking to
yeah.
all the like of course there's obvious shots like you're in the channel. Is that what they call the channel? The subway?
What the subway? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Channel.
tube. Yeah,
Is it the tube? Sorry, I don't know what it's. Yeah, sorry,
yeah.
it's
No, no, it's all right.
called
Yeah,
the tube, right? So you're in the tube, and then you're like, what's like kind of Times Square? I'm like totally ignorant to London.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
What's that called?
it's Leicester Square. Yeah, it's Leicester Square.
Leicester
It's
Square.
exactly yeah,
So
that big tourist.
then you got the
Yeah,
obviously you got the bridge, and you have the clock in the background. But but at the same time, you're showing us like the skateboarding. But you're also showing us nuggets that the average person doesn't know, right? It's not like a landmark, but it's very London-ish, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. We did. There's a place in London called Greenwich, which is kind of a really kind of old part of London, and it's a kind of beautiful area. And we did a lot of stuff there. There's one with Fiona's in a boat going by, and there's a
Yeah.
few bits in a tunnel, and outside there, and it's just a kind of very historical, lovely area, and very close to where I live, so it was good.
So tell me what's the People Show? What is that? That's like it's like a website. You got different films on there. You got theater. What is that all about?
The People Show is a theatre company. It's the second oldest theatre company in the UK, and it started in
66, right?
1966.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it started off as a collective of performers. So there was the idea was they just made a show and they didn't know what the show was going to be about. So it would be like they just gave it a number, and every show had a number. But the shows they did were live shows, installations, sometimes films, and we've done a few more films recently. But the same principle still applies. It's kind of a group of rather than a kind of hierarchical sense of like which happens in film. It's more complicated films, directed, producers. It's very much a kind of creative thing. We all kind of make something together, and we're sort of still trying to do that ethos when making films, which is quite hard, but it's still the same sort of sense of if there's like on a very small shoot like Sneeze, there's only three of us. We're all still working together to make that film. We're not sort of going, okay, this is what I want you to do. That person does that. We have our roles, but it's about much more of a collective kind of process of making something, if
And
that
so
makes
you're
any
one of the
sense.
core artists on like that's what it says on the website. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be 60 years next year. How
Yeah.
long have you been a part of it?
I've been there for about 25.
Okay. So
I'm just
it's like
working out
the
now. By next
new
year, yeah.
yeah. And are like the founders, are they still alive? Are they still with us?
Yeah. We've got Mark Long, who founded it. He's still there. He's still making work. George Kahn is another one, musician.
So I'm
Yeah,
assuming
he's
they're in their
85.
80s now, 80s or
Yeah,
90s.
yeah.
Yeah.
85 and 80, yeah. We've lost a few, but yeah, they're still there and still kind of engaged in the work and, excited about doing stuff.
That's amazing.
Um,
And you guys are still doing
yeah.
theater shows?
Yeah, I mean it's so we are still doing we're doing a tour of one we did last year in May this year. But also I think there was a thing about in the UK theatres, it's harder like with everything now as recessions about people going to the theatre, numbers are down. And I think we've always been enjoying making films, having that same process, but also engaging with a larger audience as well
Sure.
by doing that. I think it's
So
much
when
more
did you
fun.
guys start making films?
We did our first one. They did a feature film
Oh,
in
wow.
1982. That was the one. They did that there for Channel 4 when it first opened. It's one of the terrestrial channels here. But they haven't done anything since then. So we started making films from about 2015. We did the
Okay.
film called The Jossers, and then we started doing it from then. But I think with this new process of it's kind of interesting what we can do with these phones and how we can make stuff. That I really like this kind of like more kind of like guerrilla fun filmmaking about going, okay, what can we do here, and then testing our boundaries of what we can do to make that kind of more interesting and more challenging as well. Sometimes sound
Well,
is our biggest problem.
listen, like from where I stand, it's like a lot of people can make films on their phone. It doesn't mean that they're good. But it's just that basically that this is a solid, it fits. Like what I'm trying to say is that if you want to shoot on your phone, it's got to fit to the concept of the story. And a lot of stories
Yeah,
don't fit into shooting on a phone, I guess, right? But this one does
yeah, yeah,
because it's like we're observing her outside like a phone in a sense, right? And it's got that
yeah,
fantasy
yeah,
kind of element as well, right? So
yeah. And also they are kind of amazing kind of tools now. What you can do with those things,
yeah,
certain certain shots of it, you look at it and go, I can tell the difference between that and something, a much more kind of expensive camera what we were using before. So on certain shots, so it's like, it, and what you can, and there's also other filmmakers who can work with these phones who are absolutely outstanding with how they do with light, and they can just make stuff look, ridiculously good. I'm not that, and I think it's really important what you said. Is about trying to find the story. I think we always go for story first of all.
yeah,
What's our story? What are we trying to do?
yeah,
And that's the most important thing to us rather than
yeah. Like because the
very
technology
pretty stuff.
today needs to fit into the story that you're trying to tell, right? So which
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one does.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think your website, I think People Shows is an amazing thing that like it's still going after all these years. That's really amazing.
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's a good, I think it's an interesting bunch of people. And I think it is about, when we make a theatre piece and when we've done stuff, with big, we still have that ethos of like, when we're making a theatre piece, we don't know what we're doing at the beginning of rehearsal in
Yeah.
theatre. So we might have a title, but we don't know. So on that first day, we would turn up and we will make that show from scratch. Sometimes we're led by a space, for example. They say we might be performing in we've just done something recently in the museum. So that museum would start that. No, actually we did something in a bird sanctuary. That
Okay.
started this that started the process. So it became like that informed the material. And we're trying to do that a little bit with film. Looking at spaces and going, maybe that's our inspiration. Maybe it's about, you know, at the moment I kind of like to do something on benches, park benches, and that maybe might inform what we our ideas and where we might go with that with the kind of next
Like a kind of
couple of
like an
films.
anthology series on park benches.
Possibly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's where we are. We've got one idea for one that we kind of like to shoot, and also try to shoot. We kind of like to shoot one that's had the same kind of length, but a little bit more wordy, and see what we can do with that,
Yeah,
which is a
I
bit
was
more
just going to
tricky.
mention that because why your film works is that because there's no dialogue. No dialogue is not needed in your film, right? So it works for the iPhone.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's easier, and that's the challenge now. Is to go, how can you do this? With this, what? Let's, without trying to, like you said, it's like you're not trying to make, when you work with sound people, on films, it's the most complicated business, but it's trying to make something that you're using the technology and you're embracing the story but you're still trying to make it so it's not horrible, but you're not looking for
Well, when
proper.
you're adding dialogue, you can't manipulate like your sound design. You can manipulate the sound design however you want in your film, right? Which I'm assuming you
Yeah, yeah.
did. But when you're adding dialogue, there's a reality to that world, right? Where so
Well, I had it a little bit playing with the, in that film, which is because I did the edit quick. I did the edit, and I'm not an editor at all, right? But I can do that job. But when we did it, one of the things of having atmosphere is having, when you're cutting, even on that first shot, if you remember the bus
yeah,
going down, I was having to kind of cut, paste, having so it's a nice clear sort of like going, oh, I forgot about this. I forgot about you need that wild track of the actual of where you are.
yeah,
Or it's not going to continue when you cut into two shots. It's simple things like that when you're doing it all yourself. It's like, yeah, sound people are brilliant.
yeah. Okay, so by the way, I see on Film Freeway you just had a birthday, so happy birthday.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes. Well, Fiona, who's in the, who plays the lead in the Sneeze,
Yeah,
we have the same birthday.
it's funny how that works, right?
And no, and we've got another people show person in there as well. It's got the same birthday as well. It's so weird. In a company of 15, there's three people who share the same birthday. It's weird,
Yeah.
isn't
There's a mathematician who can do the mathematical odds of that, right? So that's
it?
pretty, three people, 15, same birthday, 365 days. That's pretty, I'm
That's
just doing
right.
the math in my head. It's like probably 1 in 100,000, right? So
It is. I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty, well, it's, they say that you're kind of like siblings, I guess, when you're born on the same day as somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. We always have the same shared, same birthday. It's great.
So this and the video, people are watching this on video podcast. You have people can see that you have a lot of books. You even have so many books
Yes.
behind you that the bookshelves are all filled up, and you have we have a stack of books happening. So it looks like you
Yes.
need another
There's a
bookshelf.
lot. We do need lots of other books. So we need to get rid of some books as well. I've
Yeah.
started to do that. I always was collecting books, but now I've stopped. I've stopped kind of doing that now because I was
Have
getting
you
too
read
mad.
all
I
those
put one.
books?
Well, I was looking at it the other day, going at the top, going, I can't remember any of these, and I can't. There's ones at the top, and I look at it and go, I can't even reach those.
Yeah.
So I maybe need to have a think. But my partner Bernadette, she she go mad. She loves books, absolutely loves
So
books, and
she
loves
read all
them.
those books?
Does she write them all? She's read a few. She's probably read quite more than me.
No. What I'm saying is that all the books that you have, they've all been read by either you or her, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I at one point,
At one point in the history of your life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
That's a
it
lot of
might be a
books.
glance. There's a lot of books. Yeah, we do
And so
love our
we
books.
also, before we leave you, I want to ask you something interesting because you on the blog interview, you said that we asked you what film have you watched the most times in your life, and you said Goodfellas, Dark Knight, and then you said Field of Dreams. But you're like not to be, but you're British, and you don't play baseball, and they don't know
I know,
baseball.
I know. It's something about that film. Of I remember seeing it being very young, sort of 17, 18, and seeing it for the first time, and something about that moved me. And I think we I'm a big football fan, a big soccer fan here in the
Okay,
UK, and about that kind of connection with the sport, and about families, and about dads, and about that sharing
fathers and
something
sons.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's something resonated in about there. And it's like I didn't know about at that time originally about the whole the gambling
she was Joe
suspension of
Jackson,
of
Chicago White Sox. Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
which I found about more. And I think it was just something. It's always just something that gets me, and also the kind of magic realism of that film is just beautiful, and about the corn and build it, they will come.
yeah.
You know, Burt Lancaster, you know, come in and then fight that final thing. All those kind of moments. It just,
Yeah.
I think it holds up really well now. Still, it's something about when you have something you don't quite know what it is, and there's certain bits in it that just get you, and it can
Yeah.
be the obvious ones, possibly that like the father and son throwing at the end, sharing the throw, and but there's kind of lots of moments in that.
It's a
I think it's
landmark now
universal.
in Iowa, right?
Is it?
And so
Is
they
it?
they play like the major league team plays. Well, I don't know what this year, but they played there because they have like a 30,000 seat stadium now, and they play a game there every
Oh,
year.
really?
Yeah. So the
Wow.
first time they did it was a couple years ago. They had the White Sox and the Yankees, and they basically it was like this. It was magnificent. So the guy hits a game-winning home run, and it's like it just goes into the cornfield. It was kind of
It's the con.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And it's like
Do
so
you think
people
they wait?
go to Iowa to see the field. I haven't been there, but they go to the see the Field of Dreams there.
Of course, yeah.
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 So is should it be like should they do a British remake and change it to soccer or football? They should have a football version, a British remake.
Yeah. When they all come out, the team from
Is
like
there any
maybe a
scandals like
1932.
past
Yeah.
scandals with Manchester
Oh
United and
yeah.
like that? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. There's all, but not as a whole team. That was the most amazing thing. It was the kind of like the crux of that team, wasn't it? That had
yeah,
gone. It wasn't that many. Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe there is something in that.
yeah.
There was a terrible plane accident in the 50s with Manchester United when it's called the Busby Babes and the young Manchester United team and they were off playing a European game and the plane crashed and most of them died and a
Oh
few
wow,
survived.
I never heard
Yeah, there was
that.
like a massive thing. Yeah,
And they
it's
had to
like
redo the whole team. They had to reset the whole team.
yeah, and it was like they had the manager survived and a few of them survived, Bobby Charlton, and they were obviously scarred by this because they'd seen, their teammates. But I think there's quite a few from that team, and they were all young, really young. That's why they call the Busby Babes. They were like in their
Yeah,
twenties, So it's like, major event. So maybe there's something in that. But it's such an emotive thing for Man United as well.
yeah.
It's honoured all the time.
Is
There's
that your
something about
team?
that as well. As well.
Is that your
No,
team?
I
Okay,
no, I support a team called Colchester United that
okay.
I've supported since I was, and Colchester United are in the bottom league.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
we
there's
don't
four
under North
divisions.
America. We don't understand that. Like we were watching
Yeah,
Ted Lasso introduced us to a lot of Europe, the to Americans to soccer, and we don't understand like the turn in season tournaments and like you get relegated to a different league, and it's like we're
yeah,
confused about that as Americans
yeah,
and Canadians.
yeah. You have that kind of four league, and you've got more leagues underneath those
Yeah.
four big ones. So it's like, have you watched any of the Only Way is Wrexham, the
The
Ryan
what?
Reynolds, the Ryan Reynolds, he
No,
bought
I
the
have.
team
Someone
Wrexham.
has mentioned it, right? But are they in the
Yeah,
top league? The right the like
they they were in the league. They were in the league below my team, and now
okay.
they're with the money
They
from
got the
the
money
Ryan
because
Reynolds.
of the
Yeah,
fame,
and they're
right?
going up. Yeah,
So is it
so it
like,
becomes
but
like
there's no what do you call it? There's like a salary cap, like in football, like American football and like hockey and basketball, there's a salary cap. Do they have salary cap
yeah,
in soccer or football?
yeah. You have to. I think that for a while there wasn't, and it's only recently they did it because there's lots of big people buying teams and then paying. But
Yeah,
I think what you've got to do, and it's getting complicated now, but it's like it's you whatever your value is as a team. So say you're Man United, you're going to be making millions of pounds in sponsorship
yeah.
and selling t-shirts around the world. So that money can be used. It's got to balance itself out to buy players and do that.
Socialism.
Yeah, but the problem is, it's like for the other teams that are trying to get to that next
Yeah,
level, they can't because
yeah.
they're not going to sell as many t-shirts as
No,
Manchester
no,
United, for
it's
example.
so in baseball, like we're talking about baseball, they don't have a salary cap, right? In Major League Baseball. So like the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Yankees have more money and they spend more money than the rest of the teams. But that's sort of and then they have to figure out like some teams who are small market, they have to figure out the angles, analytics to compete. Whereas the other sports like football is total socialism, right? So meaning that
Yeah,
everybody shares the wealth. So if you're in New York and you're like in Green Bay, which is like 800,000 people, they share the wealth. Every team shares the wealth. And that's how American football rose so high because, well, it's a good game, but also because they were able to like compete with it. So they all work with each other. All the owners work with each other.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that better.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a problem. I think you have got this kind of elite
Yeah.
a few teams, and every now and again one might get near, but you've got a group of, like, especially in
Yeah,
Europe, you've got this special kind of elite group of teams, and it's
yeah.
harder for the other ones to come up.
But the thing is, though, it's like once it starts, like they did that 100 years ago, right? So in 1920, they did that. So once it gets going, the players will never go for it because their salaries are gonna decrease, right? So it's all
Yeah, yeah,
about the
absolutely.
market. It's all about the unions and stuff like that. So they get away with it because it's like because they did it a long time ago. But you can't change it now because
Yeah, yeah,
the players would never go for it, right? So even in the big teams would never go for it either, right? So
yeah. It's a funny thing. Like, my team Colchester have been not great at the
yeah,
bottom, but now recently they had these two young managers who are managing the team. They're brilliant, and we've won 12 games in a we haven't lost for 12 games in a row. It's like a record, and they've gone from the bottom when the manager started to nearly they're getting to the top of the league.
yeah.
And I've just been saying to everyone, "Shh," because I don't want anyone to know, because the problem with the bottom one is, like, the players, they grab the players and they grab those managers
Oh,
to go. So you want to go, don't, don't let anyone know. But of
yeah,
course now it's all over the press. They've done this record. It's
sure.
like, oh no, they're gonna go, and then you're stuck again. You're stuck.
Yeah,
The more you've got a really good player, they're gonna leave. Quite right. Of course they are. They want to go
yeah.
and play for someone higher.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, and you can't blame the players for that, right? They're like they only have
No.
a certain
No.
amount of years to make as much money as they can, right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And the same with the managers. They want to
yeah,
be managing teams that are doing brilliant.
yeah.
And winning stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, sir, on
Yeah.
that note, I want to see your next film. I think this one's great, and congratulations on the
Great. Thank
success
you.
of it. And I hope it does well for you. And it's a great film for your site and like showcase what your company's all about. So, congratulations.
Brilliant. Thank you. I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
that. I enjoyed the sports talk as well. I like
All
that
right,
anytime. It's
let's
good.
talk soon when you make your next film.
Yes, lovely. Thank you.